Yes.
We will call our meeting or work session to order. Andrea is on her way, but we're gonna go ahead and begin. I do think we have a list of topics. And our meeting is being recorded, yeah? Yeah, okay. Let me just jump in. Lisa, you want to start with whichever one you want to jump
So
in
we're
there?
going to start with number one.
Okay.
And I put a lot of thought to this. And I think that the only thing I want to say at this time is that any materials, I just wanted the whole board to know this, that any materials that we get from anybody when it comes to complaints, executive or anything like that, that is the material that we use for our decisions.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's a statement, not a question.
Oh, that is a statement. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. There was a question during executive session, which I'm not going to talk about. But for that question, the materials that we all have is what we do use to make decisions.
Right.
Okay. And if anybody doesn't understand me, they're more than welcome to email me. Okay. Item number 2 for the superintendent's evaluation. So let me just go back a little bit with this. So there's been some things that have happened that I just walked away going, what was that? Or what just happened? Something like that. So I decided it was 3 things. So I was like, I think we need to talk about this. Because if we're going to move on, we need to all be in sync. So as far as the superintendent evaluation, when I first came here, for the very first one, I asked a couple people if the superintendent would be present, and the people said no. And I remember you saying that you saw my face, how surprised I was, okay? So during the executive session, the superintendent was there. I asked about it, and that's the way that you do it, okay? So when Kristen was here with OSBA, I thought it was very, very interesting that when it was time for us to go into executive session, pretty much at the same time, Gary stood up and walked out, and Kristen said, you know, will you please leave now? And my head was like this, because it was like, well, which one is it? Does he stay or does he go? So these things I'm bringing up so we can make clarifications. Okay?
So can I just clarify for you?
Yes.
So the way that we had previously done evaluations was not with OSBA. And
Right.
so we had always had Gary in the room and Michelle, prior to Bree, had compiled the average scores that Gary received, copied and pasted any comments into the document, and then we had all met in executive session and talked about it. And that has always been the case up until this year, which is because OSB is taking over. OSBA.
Well,
Did I say OSB?
Does that really matter if OSBA is here or not? Does that matter? Does that determine whether or not the superintendent stays or goes?
I think it's just, if I can jump in.
Yeah.
It sent me an email in December, you asked that question, and I sent it to Kristen and I forwarded it to the board. And Kristen said, boards can do it however they want, they do it different ways. OSBA's way has some pros and cons. What those are, but one part of their process is the board meets by themselves to come up with one voice to give to the superintendent. Where our past process was all the voices came to the superintendent in one space. So no one way is wrong or no one way is right.
Right.
But
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So I think what the people that you had gotten the answer that the superintendent would not be in the room from were OSBA people
Right.
and not us, because we would have said, yeah, of course he's gonna be in the room.
Right.
So,
So, and that is why I'm bringing all these up, because
Well-
there's been discrepancies. And
but
wait, excuse me for 1 minute, not discrepancies, it just, for my brain, it hasn't been on the same page. Okay, and that's why I'm bringing these up.
well, going forward, if we continue to use OSBA's process for the evaluation, then he will not be in the room while we come up with one voice. He will then be invited back in and will, but if we go back to some other process, the question of whether he'll be in the room will be open for discussion.
Actually, even if we use OSBA, we can have them in the room. It's really whatever we want to have done. Just because it's their process doesn't mean we can't have them in the room. We're paying for them to come in and do this for us. So we can do whatever we want.
Absolutely.
It's just not, it's not their standard practice, but if for some reason we wanted to, we could have them in the room.
Yeah, so what I'm talking here tonight is that we would all be on the same page, because you have a new school board member that was completely baffled, okay? And I was fine with the superintendent being there until I realized he wasn't supposed to be there for OSBA, because that's what I read, okay? That's where I get all my information from. So I just want to make sure, and you see with the next one, it's going to be the same thing, that when we do have anything and we have procedures, that we're actually very clear, especially with new members, okay? That we're very, very clear on what the process is going to be like and what the expectations are. Does that make sense to anybody?
I think it makes sense, but here's where I'm a little bit concerned, because we're spending time on this. Is there a problem with the superintendent being in the room at the time when we deliberate and come to a conclusion? Is there, are you feeling like he should not be in the room?
Okay, so me personally,
Yeah.
my personal feeling on that is for the board to be together, talk, and then the chair then we would bring him in. And the chair would talk, but then he could ask questions, do anything they want. I do think personally that the board needs to have time together without the superintendent to discuss the superintendent. Okay. And back again, it's all about the process, and we're gonna be, after this, we're gonna be figuring out how we want to do this process in the future. Because right now, we're still at a limbo, we have OSBA, but then we're gonna have our evaluation coming up. So is it gonna be our way or OSBA way?
Well, we invited,
We have contracted with OSBA to lead us in this year's evaluation of the superintendent.
Mhm.
So this year is gonna be all OSBA process.
Excuse me, this first part, okay? The first part I was talking about was that when we had the superintendent's evaluation, the superintendent was there. If you remember, I asked, why is he here? Okay,
I do remember that.
okay. So that went against whatever I read, okay? But
I was
there's,
here for that discussion.
yeah,
I mean, I was here when you were talking about this.
yeah.
The other thing to keep,
Right?
yeah.
I'm not, I don't understand why we're still talking about this. I mean,
Oh, but that hasn't been resolved.
well, it has been resolved for this year.
the other thing I would say is, we haven't had my evaluation yet this year. Those were check-ins. So those were something we've never done before.
But evaluation is coming up.
Is coming.
So I know that I'm gonna want to be clear with the whole board, you know, what is the process gonna be? How are we going to do this?
I think I'll resend it, but, I'll ask Kristen to type up exactly, I think what you're asking is what will exactly look like in the board meeting in April.
Yeah, no, I don't need to do that. Wait a minute.
You're wanting to hear from Kristen, what exactly in the evaluation, when we have the evaluation in April, what will that process look like?
No, I actually don't need to hear from Kristen because I've already talked to her. Okay, the only thing I want with this is for us, when we go into the next superintendent evaluation, to make sure that we're clear. And it's not just the evaluation, it's whenever we're making decisions, that whenever we have a process to get something done, we need to be on board on the same page. So the only thing I'm asking is the board together is, so it's not in policy, is it? There's no policy on that.
There's a policy on superintendent evaluation, sure, but it doesn't, it just tells you you need to do one and the date to do it by, you could decide you're gonna throw a dart at the board. if you
Right.
want.
Exactly. So that would be, my suggestion is that we do come together before the next superintendent evaluation to determine how is the board going to move forward with that.
But the next evaluation is coming up in April, and we already decided we're moving forward with the process that Kristen is teaching and training us on. So if you're talking about the site after that, that's your summer retreat, when we do summer retreat, then you can come up, if this process doesn't work and meet your needs, then you can say, hey, let's do it differently for the next.
I also think
So-
typically, Lisa, it happens, like that'll happen in May, June. So the year before you even got on the school board, we had already said, we're evaluating Gary the same way we've already did before.
Right.
And you came on in July or August and we were just continuing down that path. I hear what you're saying, when, you know, these new things come up that you haven't experienced. I guess I just put it on, I'll take some responsibility, maybe I need to, when these things come up, be a little more clear, try to make sure the board's on the same page, but also ask a question. If you're not sure, hey, what does this exactly look like? I'll send you.
I was asking questions. I did ask questions.
You asked me questions and I didn't respond?
No, I did not ask
Okay.
you the question. But yeah, I'm fine with however we do it. I just want to make sure that we're going to be concisive and do one thing. I do understand that this time we're going to be doing it OSBA way, okay? And then next time, we're going to be sitting down and figuring out how do we want to do this and make it clear for everybody. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions, concerns about them? No? All right.
So the last item number 3, this again is about process. Okay, so during the budget committee voting, right? My understanding, and I have to do my understanding, okay? My understanding was that we were gonna have the names in alphabetical order, okay? Thank you. Gary did that, and we had them there. And that Barbara, the chair, you're the chair, right?
Chair.
Okay, so Barbara would read them off in alphabetical order, one at a time, and we would vote.
So if I,
So here's what I interpret.
Yes, I want to hear this.
So Gary was out sick,
Mhm.
and so we were without a guiding voice.
well, I was at
Yes.
that meeting where we voted.
I was not there. I
She was
there,
online.
but he was there.
You were online.
I was online.
I was there.
Ish.
I think,
You were not.
You weren't there.
not here.
I was here. Oh, I was here. I heard the whole thing the next day because we had some members that, had enrolled or had registered simply to make sure we had enough. I was able to get the one that Kathleen had nominated on there. Anyways, I was here.
Are you sure?
I think that was when you were sick.
I think you were sick. I think you were out sick.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, because that's why,
Oh, maybe I was just listening.
it went down to south.
Oh, okay, I lied. I wasn't here. I was listening.
So here's what I interpret,
Yeah.
and one of the reasons that this is a perfect example of why we ask the audience members not to interrupt with comments, and because there was a person in the audience who kept throwing out kind of negative thing, and I could not get a word in to say, I don't think this is how we are supposed to be going about this, until it was too late. And it was, we had already voted yay on enough members of the budget committee that it didn't matter. He walked out, and and I would also like to say thank you to Lori Daniels for understanding that she has already served and giving a new person a chance. And I also want to acknowledge that even though I nominated her, it was because I heard Kathleen's voice in the background saying, I want to nominate. And so, but it did not go as Gary had said, but it also didn't. You were expecting it one way and it went another, but we ultimately wound up with 5 new budget members who we
don't have 5 new. They're returning.
well, we had to replace
Yes.
the entire budget committee except for us. And so we wound up with 5 new or returning members. And I feel like we all at least got one person that we wanted. And I think we should just move forward because we'll never necessarily, well, that's not true. We probably will not have this situation occur again.
Until next year.
However,
No, it doesn't,
She
they
needs all
are,
5, having all 5.
All
I think
five.
you could, because they're all now up at the same time, but typically some of them will drop off. What I'd share is that we've done it lots of different ways, and the same thing I'd say before is that, you know, maybe it's my fault for not coming up with a clear process, but like Andrea said, everybody, if somebody was nominated they didn't like, you could just vote them down 2 to 3, and then we went to the next one. So we've done it before where they come in and interview, and we ask them, and they're all sitting out there in the crowd. People didn't really like that, or board members didn't. And then we evolved to this process, but it literally can be done any way you want.
I would
So,
just like to do it so everybody's on the same page. That's the only thing I'm saying, and you're saying the same thing. What did you have to say, Kathleen?
I disagree with Andrea. I think this is a slippery slope, because if we as a board agree on 2 ways that we're gonna do something, and then something goes completely separate way that was not agreed upon, but it's okay now. I don't think that's a way that we need to move forward. The board agreed on 1 of 2 ways of it being done. It was not done that way. And it doesn't mean just relevant to the budget committee. It could be anything that the board agrees upon. I think once the board agrees upon a system and a procedure, then that needs to be stuck to. And it's not,
Well, I agree.
it worked out okay.
I agree with that, but do you want to go back and do the voting again in the way that it was?
As long as we agreed upon a procedure and a system, the board needs to stick to that. We don't just get to go rogue when it comes time to throwing out names.
but know that, I'll send out, I'll go back and find out where I talked about that process. Here's the way I know that what I recall, but clearly I can be wrong like I was earlier. Was that I was gonna give a list of names in alphabetical order. But
Or,
what's that?
or each board member, we would go around and each board member would get to nominate one, and then we would vote. It was.
Yeah, I definitely never said that. I don't think I did.
I don't
shouldn't say.
think that
What I recall saying is I give it, just so you had the names in front of you, you already had the files from before, right? You could have reviewed. And just so you had the names in no particular order, it was a random alphabetical order. Anybody can go number 6, I'd like to nominate, and we just move around and nominate various ones until you had 5. If we got through the list and we didn't have 5, we'd have to go back on somebody that didn't get voted in.
So will you please say,
What I understood is that someone was going to put all the names up on the board and point. Who wants this one? And if, 3 out of 5 of us voted yay, then,
Okay. Well,
But-
yeah, clearly people are different.
but clearly that was also not what happened.
You might go back and listen to the.
No,
I did, so.
I do not.
I went back to listen to the meeting and Barbara asked, how do we want to do this? And she kind of turned to me and I said, well, there's a couple ways we could do it. One way is you could nominate, you could make a motion for all 5 people if you chose to, or you could go one by one. And someone in the crowd, I can't remember who it was, Andrea or you, I can't remember, I think it was Andrea. I couldn't recognize the voice. He said, let's do them one by one. So that's what we did.
So I'm really glad that I'm bringing this up because we have 5 members and so far 3 of them are thinking it's different ways.
Well, I'm just telling how it happened.
Right, so what I'm saying is that's why I'm talking about farm budget. To make sure that we all understand the same thing, we're all on the same page. As far as who was voted in, I don't think anybody has any discrepancies with that. It is literally the process only. And I'm only saying these so we can be on the same page.
Okay. So I would suggest these topics if we are still feeling that it's unresolved, that our summer retreat is a place for us to flesh it out and just get a really fine-tuned process so we understand clearly how to move forward. So this one obviously had many different interpretations, so we should do that.
Okay.
I thought you said, do we want to go back and listen to?
No, I said, did anyone go back and listen to what actually happened?
I do.
I
So there was.
I didn't mean to say no quite so adamantly because I don't now need to go back and listen to.
So if anybody does, it's November's and it's about 1 minute and 8 seconds. Yeah.
So processes are important, and if we all are not on the same page, then no sense having the processes, right? It's the one we followed, so
But that's why you have a process.
the process to follow the process.
No, just a process to follow.
Okay, yeah. Anything else you have?
No, it was just those 3 items.
Andrew?
Yep.
All right, we will have probably 7 minutes break and then we'll be ready for regular meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Our meeting to order. We have a shared vision in Frederick School District, providing excellence for every student so that each will reach their greatest potential. Thank you to the members of the public who have joined us. As a reminder, school board meetings and work sessions are meetings of the board held in public, providing an opportunity to observe the board's discussion and actions. In an effort to conduct official board business, we ask that the audience be respectful and refrain from questions, comments, and unnecessary noise while the board conducts the meeting. There is an opportunity for citizen comment tonight, and the board looks forward to hearing from those who have signed up. I will share some reminders when we get to that portion of the meeting. Also, please note that all board meetings are live streamed and posted on the school board area of the website. And we will begin with our citizenship award. Dawn.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to introduce Alice Brown, who she received the citizen of, I guess, from the whole school district. This is, before I start with the speech, this is to go to you, Alex, for doing such a remarkable and wonderful job at Meade Elementary School, and you'll get that shortly. I decided this time I wanted to have what I say written down so that you can remember it for years to come. It says community, a place where people live, play, and work together, and citizen, a member of the community. So this is presented to you. And this is what I have to say, and then also I got a quote from your teacher. Alex is a role model. They are fun, they take school seriously, and kind to kinder through 5th grade. Alex shows pride in school, her family, and her relationships. She is a joy to have at the Meade Elementary School. And from your own teacher, Alex is a superstar, a student and a citizen at Meade Elementary. She has a shining optimism that spreads throughout the class and school. Alex takes on so many responsibilities every day and jumps in to help anyone at any opportunity. School staff and their peers and her peers respect and admire their kindness, positive energy, and academic excellence. Alex shares her thoughts and is gentle to lead. We are lucky to have her at BDS. So congratulations.
Sure. Awesome. Congrats. And will you be so kind as to lead us in?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Congrats.
Go.
Yeah, okay.
Good job.
Good job, Al.
Thank you. All righty. Okay, and we do not have any public comments at this time, so we will jump on into our monthly items and approve our minutes. We can have a motion to approve previous January 27th.
I move that we accept the minutes from the school board meeting on January 27th, 2025.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second, any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have 5 ayes. Our business office, Juana,
Yes, I'm here.
we can hear
Thanks,
you.
Bree. Okay, as of February 1st, our in-district enrollment was 1,289, which is 5 over our budgeted numbers and 6 less than last month. At the elementary level, we are up by 2. At the middle school level, we are up by 25, and at the high school level, we are down by 22. We also have 7 more out-of-district placements than originally budgeted. And that's all I have on the enrollment report, unless any of the board has questions.
Questions for us?
And then the financial report, as of January 31st, we have received 75% of our budgeted revenue. Last year, we were at 80%. Like I've said a few times, though, we had a large timber revenue payment, which impacted that a lot. We've spent 44% of our operating expenditures. Last year, at this same time, we were at 45%, so very similar to last year's. I don't really have anything special to talk about. I did record our ending fund balance, as you will see at the top of the revenue page. Right under January, the 4,556,000. So that was our ending fund balance from 23-24 that's been recorded now into 24-25. But other than that, it's been just a pretty standard month. Does the board have any questions?
No, no questions at this time.
Okay.
Motion to accept the January 31st, 2025 financial report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have 5 ayes. Were you also talking about the insurance?
Yeah, the fidelity coverage. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll go over that real quick. So we discussed this at the last meeting, because it's always on our audit report, whether or not we wanted to increase our coverage. Gary and I reached out to multiple districts, and while 1 or 2 had higher coverage than us, the vast majority of them had lower coverage, with one of the larger districts even having half of what we currently have. So based on the information we gathered from all the other districts, I recommend that we maintain our current coverage level at 500,000.
Question, Lisa, you had a question the last time.
Yeah, I did. So, Monica, could you please tell me, what are we paying on that insurance now for the 500,000?
Currently we're paying $2,122 with a $5,000 deductible.
Thank you.
But no action is needed here, we just wanted to give you the information, as those of you on the board are well know, this is always just a comment that's made, but it was good for us to look into it.
Yeah,
A lot of
I might,
had less than us.
yeah, I might bring it up again in a couple years, but I probably won't bring it up again next year since we discussed it this year.
Thank
you.
Uh-huh.
All right, on to our reports, West Lane Charter School.
So I sent a PowerPoint up here, just first slide is just a picture of our school. Yes.
If you don't mind being sent to the stage, because these ladies are straining their neck. You can sit,
Okay.
be comfortable. Okay.
I just can't zoom in for some reason. So if you haven't seen, that is the front of our building. We're right next to Ixtapa, and between Ixtapa and O'Reilly's, down the street, kind of sits back. So a lot of people don't even see us there, but that's what we look like. This school year, things have been going really well. Our enrollment numbers are up from last year at this time, and they seem to be going up every day. We are nearing our cap, which is not a problem I ever thought we might have, but it's kind of a good one to have. So we're watching those numbers closely. We do have a cap of what we can accept, and we will be putting kids on a waiting list if we get there. On average, we have 10 to 15 students a day working in the building. The rest of our kids are working virtually, connecting with teachers via Google Meet or phone or email, depending on their needs for the day, which can be real busy for teachers because they're working with a lot of kids in a lot of different places all at once. So we tend to have some turnover. We've had 136 kids enrolled this year total. Some come, they don't stay, they leave. Currently, we have, as of today, we had 115 kids. So 69 at the time of this report, 69 of the kids that had enrolled were from the Fern Ridge School District, 67 from out of district. So pretty even split there. And then 6% of the students that have come to us are on IEPs. I didn't break that down by district. I don't think it's heavy one way or the other. It's a high percentage, although I don't know that that's any higher than anywhere else. Next slide. Hard to see, but that's all right. Again, just the percentages, 54% of our kids are from Fern Ridge School District, 21 from Bethel, 10 from Eugene. And then it kind of goes down from there, but those are our three main districts. We get quite a few kids from the Bethel School District, and they actually call on a regular basis and recommend kids to us that they feel would fit in our program that maybe aren't being successful there. So it's an option that they seek out. Just a little more data. So we look at kids when they come to us. A lot of times kids haven't been successful in traditional schools for whatever reason, and there is a wide variety of reasons. So they're credit deficient. I kind of broke it out. And again, I think it's pretty even based on the kids that come to us. It's not heavy one district or another. So 55% of our total population this year were not on track when they enroll. And I feel like that's just important to point out because in some future slides, you'll see our graduation rates are a little bit lower than, well, a lot lower than where we would like them. But we're trying to make up ground with kids and kids who traditionally have struggled. And so they may not make up that ground real quickly. And so it just worked to get them there. And so the next slide shows some of those graduation rates. We had. It's not showing on there, so there it is. So last year, 30% of kids graduated on time, 31% within a 5-year graduation rate. So definitely not where we would like them, but we're seeing with that little blip there, 13% in 22, 23, we're seeing increases every year. We have a goal of a 2% increase, we're surpassing that. And so we just hope to continue to see that growth. About that, our increase. We have a smaller student to teacher ratio, which helps us get those kids caught up, spending some one-on-one time with them. You can go to the next slide. We talk about just some of the things that we are able to do with those smaller numbers. Teachers can offer individual and small group learning. There'll be times when you can see the science teacher sitting at a table going through a lab with 2 students. He can work one-on-one and just really target the areas that they're struggling, which isn't always possible in a bigger school. May not always be necessary either. And so it's just one of those alternatives that we can do. One of the things we recognize is that one of the limitations of being virtual is social interactions, and those are important. And so we offer a monthly field trip for kids. We just last week went to the aquarium and had a great turnout. Kids had a great time. Every week we have a Thursday afternoon social hour, and we have Tuesday topic talks where kids can introduce any topic they want to discuss, and every staff member sits in on that topic talk, so it's a whole group discussion. So we try to find those social interactions for kids that they might be missing being virtually. We are exploring new, more engaging curriculum for next year. If we land on something, that will come to you all for approval before we adopt it. But teachers are virtually sometimes can be hard to get engaged and interact with. And so we're really trying to find things that will help maybe draw kids in better. So we're exploring some options there. Our GED program has been incredibly successful. We are getting kids who just were so credit deficient that the reality of graduating in 5, 6, even 7 years was out of reach for them. And so they are able to take part in that GED program. And I don't have exact numbers as of today, but we've had quite a few kids complete that this year so far. So that's been a great addition to help some kids who are just, it's not attainable otherwise. And then staff, we couldn't do it without the amazing staff we have. We have our counselor who works, tirelessly. He's always there, always working, goes above and beyond to help kids track their progress, provide support. He heads up the GED program, so he's monitoring the kids in those classes and where they need that to take the extra class or the extra support to get them where they need to be able to pass the test. Miss Johnson working with our IEP kids at 36% is a lot of students for her. And so she stays on top of it and works really hard to meet the needs of all those kids. 2 CTE teachers that are doing a great job teaching core subjects as well as their CTE. We don't have a lot of kids interested in our 2 CTE programs, first and second, but the ones that do really appreciate the teachers and their commitment to them. So we have 2 CTE programs, culinary and IT, and again, not a lot of interest in that at the moment, but we're really working on trying to build that up and promote it and let kids know what we have to offer. Hopefully we can grow that even more. Then attendance. I'll talk faster. It's a constant battle. I don't know. I think it is in all schools. It's something that we work really hard on. We'd like to have those attendance rates at 80% or higher. We are increasing. The next slide shows a little bar graph of just a little bit over every month last year. Those numbers aren't at that 80% yet. And it's really hard when you're monitoring kids at home and they're having to be self-motivated to be calling them and reaching out to them and be really working on getting them to be engaged in doing their schoolwork. So that is something we work really, really hard on. The next slide kind of shows we have a tiered intervention plan. And we talk every single week about every single student.
Didn't you have a change in how you count attendance?
Yeah, during COVID, the state changed how attendance was tracked for virtual schools. It used to be counted, if they worked 2 days a week, it was counted as a full week of attendance. Thought being, in 2 days, they could do all that work. And now it is, they have to work every single day in their classes and you can't count weekends. And so if a kid's going to a virtual school because they want to work during the week, want to work on Saturday and Sunday, we can't count that. So it does affect it. Haven't tracked how much because we're not counting those days, but it did make a difference, I think. I still would say overall, though, attendance is lower than we wanted to. And we do have that tiered system. Again, every Wednesday afternoon, we go through our list of kids and talk about every single one and which ones need more support, where we need to move up in that tiered system. And then we have our incentive programs. Kids, as they're completing courses, completing work on time, we do, like I said, the activities, we have prizes and drawings and things that we're doing just to try to help motivate them. We wanted to, as a staff, wanted to thank all of you for your support of our school and letting us help the students that we get to work with. So, thank you.
Thank you.
See,
Yes. What, do you know what your math is?
Our cap is 120. Yeah,
We're close.
we're very close.
This is February.
And we will lose some.
have you seen a lot of turned or responses? Because I know I've heard the ads.
Yeah, we're hearing that they're hearing about it, either word of mouth, Bethel's referring them, or on the radio. So, the 3 top ways.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
All right, next up is our Fern Ridge Education Association, Deborah and Mr. Forrest Cooper.
Oh, first.
You can hang out with me.
Literally behind her, huh?
All right, well, thank you for letting us present some information about our great kids at our schools. We've got Elmira Elementary doing some really fun stuff. They had their net assembly about building resilience through persevering. They also had Sluggo come in for a visit. They celebrated on the next slide 100 days of school with an eagle hunt. Not the live ones, just the standard pictures, okay. And then, of course, Lori Dosher came in to sing about kindness and friends and family. Veneta Elementary also had some celebrations with a net assembly, but they celebrated some friendship and care with hearts. They set up the typical annual Lunar New Year hallway, which is always fun to see. And then their biographies for the month of February are going well. They've also got, on the next slide, some electronics recycling adventures. There's net assembly over there on the left. They get yo-yos. And then they have an annual auction happening. Didn't see April 22nd. There it is.
No, it's April 5th.
What's that?
April 5, 22nd annual.
22nd annual, April 5th?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Couldn't find that in there. It's all good.
I'm amazed.
Teeny tiny print. 22nd annual, love it, okay. Fern Ridge Middle School. They had their ballograms for Valentine's Day, brought in about $260. The middle school also tried out some intervention classes for reading and math, which seemed to go well. OBOB, alive and well, they also put up posters this year on the lockers to celebrate, kind of like they do with the teams with softball, et cetera. They did that with OBOB this year, which is very cute. On February 27th, starting, I think it's at 5:30, sorry about that, it's covered up. There is that's this Thursday, there's a big fundraiser event with bingo, pizza, some other concessions, a 50-50 raffle. There's a game room, a video game tournament. some movie shorts from Pixar for the littles. So that's gonna be a fun fundraiser to support the LA fire relief. And then over at EHS, the high school, we had some students earning their food handler cards, ready to go out into the world and handle some food. Wash. Art and there's painting and ceramics. They look really beautiful. I'm not sure where that painting is. I don't know, is that a big, huge painting? Do you know, Gary?
I don't know.
You know, I gotta go check it out. And then, of course, some volleyball, the sports, keeping those kids active. There was also another slide all about the wrestling happening, going on to state. 5 states all here, which is pretty fabulous. And then, of course, some OVA. Hosting the regionals March 7th. I'm gonna hand the floor over to Forrest.
Thank
You're
you.
up.
And so this is just an update on the legislative front and what we're doing there with our priorities. And one of the things was the 11% sped dollar cap, just to increase that cap. The argument or the issue there really for us is it's really about revenue. We don't want to take money away from the general fund in order to increase that cap. So it's a hard one. We'll see where we get to. I know ours is well above that in this district. Kotex updated SSF calculation. So she had a calculation that she went to, and now that if she doesn't keep that calculation, they'll reduce the revenue that you get. So we're trying to make sure that that stays the way they're calculating it. They calculated it the last time. And then this flexibility in the PERS fund will hopefully, we would love to see them tap that $87 million to offset your increase in PERS cost. I don't know if they will. We'll have to see. And then that mandatory scope of bargaining has been our issue for a long time over class size. It won't affect the bargaining that we are in right now with the district because it wouldn't become effective until after July. OEA also looking at many other bills and other priorities as the session continues. A lot of stuff is already set in terms of bills, so now it's just a matter of what can we tweak or how can we get them to change some language or add language. And we are working on that. We had a successful lobby day. A lot of people showed up to talk to our representatives, and there's a lot of letter writing going on still. Thanks, Bruce.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fine. On to our student representatives. Who's gonna go first?
Okay, starting with sports, basketball senior night was held February 14, Valentine's Day, and both of our varsity basketball teams won their games against Harrisburg High School, which concluded the season on a high note and gave the senior a successful closure for their sport.
On February 15th, OSA had their cheerleading championship, and our girls team placed 4th in the 1A to 3A traditional cheer category.
And then wrestling, Caitlin Lilly, hopefully I said her name right, qualified for state for women wrestling. EHS also hosted the boys regional wrestling championship last Saturday, February 22nd. And that's where St. Clemmer sophomore Jonah Cooper, junior Matthew Lawson, and sophomore Tucker Christians placed and will be joining Caitlin at the state championship.
Signups are open now for the Rough and Tough Grad Night fundraiser. Junior and senior boys are able to sign up now, and the winners of the game will get to play the EHS staff.
Yep.
Sounds fun.
Yes. You signed up?
I signed up today.
Right. And then moving on from sports, NHS had candygrams for Valentine's Day. We sold about 100 of them and we raised $83 that is just going to go to our funds for NHS.
The grad night committee had a can and bottle drive, I think in the parking lot on February 15th, and they collected 182 full bags for their fundraisers.
I know.
Then outdoor school, for outdoor school, our interviews already took place and the students should be hearing back soon. And then the first outdoor school meeting will be held at the middle school and it will be on March 5th.
We had some various scholarship aid kind of sessions. The FAFSA and scholarship help session for seniors and parents and guardians was held on February 12th. And that's where students and guardians were able to get their questions answered as they filled in any financial aid applications. I think that one was specifically geared towards the FAFSA. Just kind of a drop-in session to help people with whatever info they needed. There was also a drop-in help session for seniors during the school day in the EHS library on February 18th, where seniors could ask questions to a financial aid guru and EHS counselors regarding FAFSA or the ORSA,
Yes.
OSAC, Oregon Promise Lane Foundation, and any other scholarships, local scholarships.
Yes. I was able to go to one of those drop-in sessions and they were really helpful. I was able to finalize 2 of my scholarships, so. And then moving on for future events, we have some job shadows happening. We had one from Connected Lane County on February 11th, but there's going to be another one on March 11th as well. Then we're gonna have a marathon coach job shadow in March. The date is soon to be decided, we don't know yet. And then there's going to be a night headquarters job shadow on April, but the date is not decided yet.
EHS will also host its own career fair on March 19th. Seniors will be able to complete their graduation requirements by attending the career fair, but also taking a mock interview with their presented resumes, which are 2 graduation requirements.
And then the leadership class will be meeting with the JARC Foundation on March 4th to present some of the classes plans and potentially get some funding for our projects. The JARC Foundation aims to address inequality and their current priorities are to promote health families, justice reform, and civic engagement, amongst other things. So hopefully we'll be able to present some of the projects we did as our final semester to be able to get some funding for those projects and other things that the AHS leadership needs or AHS
wants to institute.
Yes.
For students.
And that's it for.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna try to go quick because I can get a win too. It's very exciting. Sure, we still have power in Walton, Brian?
I doubt it.
I'll be at your house. Okay, just a couple general updates before I go into the slide deck. Health materials are here and ready for review. Some general links and materials have been pushed out via Parent Square, social media website, and I'll kind of continue to push through that. And just keep gathering any input and hopefully getting some people to want to come take a look. A couple other things I wanted to share. Our early literacy grant dollars that we got last year, we used quite a bit, over 100,000 to fund 16 teachers doing a letters reading training, which is very intensive. Pretty much like a full-on college course that they did over a span of 5 months. And we were recently awarded $30,000 from United Way of Lake County to continue that. So I'm working on putting a proposal together for that. And then the last thing I would just share is that our Heart of the Community had to be rescheduled for a snow day. So that will be coming out. We're pushing a lot of information out. We rescheduled for March 12th. 13th, thank you. All right. But mainly tonight I'm going to go through this. Our slide deck is the same bones as it has been for the last 2 years. I kind of updated some colors, but essentially one of the board goals, you guys have 3 main goals and committing to continuous board professional development. Number 2 is using data to identify and prioritize student needs and hold themselves accountable for meeting all students' learning expectations by monitoring the progress of the district goals. And number 3 is continuing to find meaningful ways to engage with our stakeholders. So I focus on number 2, kind of the data and the instruction and learning. We'll go to perfect. So our action plan around number 2 that we kind of collaborate on and work through is create a monitoring plan. We present data on our longitudinal performance growth targets. That's part of our SIA high school success plan. It's ODE grants. We have 3 sessions. So we had the first one in November and then February, and then we'll have another one in the spring. And these are all the same slides. So kind of hopefully this is starting to feel familiar. And then Mr. Carpenter and I coordinate the presentations. A reminder about longitudinal growth targets. What ODE supported was a team, and you spend some time meeting over historical data. So what does it look like in the past? And then what would it look like if you really dig in and you really set intentional targets and stretch? What if you put all of your dollars in this one area? What would it be? What's your baseline? What's your expectation to grow? And then what's your gap closing? So your kids that are most marginalized or having the hardest time, how are we going to give them a little bit more to get them up with everybody else? So we set goals for each of those. Your baseline students, which is all students, your stretch, which is you want to go higher, and then gap closing, really getting everybody as close together as you can. Next. This slide just kind of talks about our district. As of, this was updated 2-20, so I'm not sure if Juana and I have the exact same enrollment numbers, but we were at 1293. We have 249 students of color and tribal indigenous backgrounds. We have 265 students who experience disabilities. We have 13 emerging bilingual students. We have 308 students that navigate poverty, homelessness, or foster care. And then we have just a whole nother group of students that we don't necessarily have the exact numbers or data on that are part of groups that are marginalized and have academic disparities. So when you look at our numbers and the way we pull these reports, 687 of our 1,293 students fall into one or more of the above vocal groups. So I know I say this every single time, but pretty much when you're looking at our students, it's students that fall into one of these areas. Our next slide is our equity lens that we use at our staff meetings, at our district meetings, and essentially we kind of just want to make sure that we're asking ourselves questions as we make decisions and thinking through our decision making. You can go ahead. And one of our first targets is around attendance and regular attenders. You guys heard Darcy talk about that a little bit. That's definitely a goal for the entire state of Oregon. Off to the left, you'll see our first semester regular attenders range between 70% and 76%. District-wide, we were 75%. That table on the right-hand side, it will show you kind of what I talked about, that baseline, the stretch, and the gap closing. So in 23-24, our baseline, all students, we were at 67.7. Our goal was 74.5%. That's pretty ambitious. It's 74.5% this year. Our goal was 74%. We're above the Oregon average, not by a ton. And again, like Darcy mentioned, a lot of work is happening around this. It's just really hard to see improvement. So then our stretch is we were trying to get to 76.5%, and last year was 75. And the reason that 67.7 is the same, because what it is what it is. But what we want is it to be higher and meet our stretch goals. Our gap closing, you kind of look at our focal group percentage, and then you make a goal for them that's a little bit lower, but closes that gap over time. And our goal was 63.2 or 66%, and we came in at 63.2% last year. So lots of work to be done every day. Building principals are working on this. Our admin meetings, they share what they're doing within their buildings and what teachers are doing. So hopefully we'll just keep growing there. Next one is 3rd grade English language arts. So this first slide is around the Oregon State Assessment. And our 23-24 data, we were at 40.6% of students met or exceeded that goal. Our goal was 40%. So we did meet our goal in there, not by much, but we did. And then our goal for this year is 42%. Our stretch goal was 50%, we didn't meet that. And our gap closing was 28%, and we came in at 26.8. So some of the letters training, we have an aligned curriculum, we do literacy walkthroughs. We're working with Oregon Research for Learning and Intervention, tiered learning and instruction. There's a lot of work having data teams are happening, high dosage tutoring is happening, after school programs, assessment platforms, all kinds of really great work. Keep going there. So this slide speaks to our STAR CAT. So if you might remember, we used to use a platform called Easy CBM for benchmarking and progress monitoring. It was great in its day, but it was outdated. And so over the last 2 or 3 years, we've moved to researching and then finally deciding on a new assessment platform. We chose STAR CAT. We have this K through 8, and essentially the kids, they take their benchmark assessments 3 times a year. And then in between those, they get progress monitored. And then the teachers and title teachers, administrators are able to access all of that data to either fine tune it for one kid, one class, or an entire grade level. What this data shows you is our fall and winter for each elementary. The left 2 bars are Elmira Elementary. And what you want is as many kids as you can in the blue and green. And you know, sometimes this is only 3rd grade too. That's kind of our focus. And then what you want to see, if you look at Elmira, you can see that they're that red, that's your intensive. That means your kiddos below the 10th percentile and probably really, really struggling. You want that red to close a bit. And it did for Elmira. Veneta, it didn't. And that doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong. It just means that they've got to really dial it in there and see what kind of interventions we can put in place. What can we change? What do we need to do to support those kids? Yeah, question.
It looks like very different performance in each school. Why is that?
I don't think necessarily. I mean, it's what's 57. Really, I look at the green. The blue is nice because it's 25th to 39th percentile. As a classroom teacher, I always wanted my kids at the 50th percentile or higher. That kind of told me that they were going to be on track to meet OSAS or the state test. I don't know, Billy, do you want to talk about that at all?
I think a lot of it has to do with population and, you know, kind of the groups you get and
group size.
Situation. You know, I don't know what the students on IEP percentages, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Okay.
The other thing I'd mention is at each school, you're talking about 50 kids. So one
That's
kid.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
3 kids would come up at 6%.
Yeah, and really one of the things that we're still doing a lot of learning around this and learning how to read the reports, learning what the best timelines are for those progress monitoring. It's solid, but it's a lot, and it's a big lift for our teachers, and they're working really hard.
Yeah, that small N is a good reminder. Thank you, Gary.
Go ahead. So this slide talks about our 9th grade on track, and remember, each of these are one of our performance growth targets. So we're not really just pulling these out of anywhere. The state's asking us to track all this data on these. So at the high school level, it's 9th grade on track. And what this slide, it's a little tricky, but not too hard to understand. The blue shows you the total number of students with an F. So the first 9 weeks of last school year, we had 28 students with an F. The first 9 weeks of this year, we had 16 students with an F. Then you look at the 18-week marks, and the orange part shows you the total number of Fs. So if you're looking at the first 9 weeks of 24-25, there were 16 students, and those 16 students combined together had 41 Fs. So it's not like 41 kids have Fs. 16 kids are sharing that load. But this year, where we're at right now, what I would have you focus on too is last year at the 18-week mark, we had 16 kids not on track. And being on track means you have to have 3 full credits at the semester, 6 credits at the end of the year. At this time right now, this year, we only have 4 kids. So that's a huge kudos to our 9th grade team over there, the work that they're doing. John Goldegger does a lot with 9th grade on track, future success classes. And our 9th grade success team meets once a month to talk about these kiddos. So they're doing some great stuff. Do you have a question?
I do.
Yeah, go back.
So does F mean failure?
Yeah, like the grade is an F
Your grade is.
in a class, in any given class.
Okay, and then, and I can actually talk to you later if you like.
Yeah, what I'm
16 students. And they're failing 41 different times?
Well, 16 students, so like if there were 16 of us right here, you might have 3 Fs, Andrea might have 2 Fs, JT might have 7. Right? Come on, JT, give me together. So that's how it's packaged on this slide.
Do you have a, with all the grades, how you did this? What is it?
I don't know that we do. So this specific slide is for 9th grade on track. I'm sure we could grab that data pretty easily if you want me to look into it.
Not right now.
Okay, yeah, I can't tell you right now, that's for sure. But I can definitely kind of look into that, because it would be interesting. The biggest thing that we look at in 9th grade and then moving forward are those kids that aren't on track and how to get them on track. And I know the high school, if you can remember when Sid did her presentation, they have that like 2-page handout that the kids are tracking in homeroom.
Yes.
Their courses and credit completion. Okay. The wind died down, so I'm taking my time. This is just a couple pictures of our CTE, a couple wood shop. We have Johnny Bowden new to us this year. He's continuing with welding. He's got auto mechanics isn't quite a CTE course. It's a lot of people think of it that way, but we don't have all the credentials in place for it to be called a CTE course right now, but he's still teaching auto, wood shop, and welding. And what this talks about, this is just the percentage. So last year, our goal was 79.2 kids to be 9th grade on track. That means they have their 6 credits by the end of the year. And we met that goal. We were at 81.2. We met our stretch goal, which was exactly the same. And then we didn't quite do our gap closing. We did grow, but our goal for our gap closing was 73%. Four-year graduation is another one of our target areas. So we have our 4-year cohort graduation, our baseline, all students last year. So remember in the fall, I had this data in my head and provided to us, but it was embargoed by the state. So we couldn't really talk about it. So now it's not embargoed, it's been released, it's public data, 77.5. Is that 77? 77.57% for last year. Our goal for this year is 85.5. And our gap closing for last year, so our students that were in our focal groups were 57.5. And a couple things that we have to support this area is we have 2 full-time counselors, we have credit recovery, we have our options program. So lots of important work happening there at the high school. And then you have 5-year completion. So if you have kids that didn't necessarily get all 24 credits by the 4th year, they can come back for a 5th year completion. Our percentages are really good here. I don't know that that's something you want to brag about, but it's important that kids are able and given that opportunity to come back and finish up. And when they want to, they're usually successful. So 93.02%. And I'm not sure why I don't have our goals, what our goals were on there, but I'm pretty sure we met in our 5-year completion, but not our stretch and not our gap closing. I'll double check that one. So then the next couple of slides, I just wanted to talk about our community input data and our student input data. And I think I've shared this with you guys before, but I wanted to kind of have it all wrapped up in a slide deck so that I can push it out. We had 214 responses, which is the highest that we've had in the 3 years we've been doing the survey. Our percentages are combined neutral to strongly agree for each statement. So provides a supportive and safe school environment, 94.86. Values diversity, 94.86. Feel welcome, 96.26. Communicate easily and consistently, 94.86. High expectations, 91.59. Instruction that builds critical thinking, 94.86. Provided the opportunity to connect and apply their education to the world around them, 92.53. And multiple and varied enrichment opportunities, 88.32. One thing I would share, and then if you guys have any questions, feel free. What we should all be very proud of is that not only is this the most responses that we've had, but we were higher in every single category for the 3rd year in a row. So definitely rebuilding that trust and people feeling good about how things are going. And I think that's great. The one area that feels low is that 88.32 and trying to figure out ways to provide varied enrichment opportunities. It's hard to take middle schoolers and high schoolers on field trips when you've got 100 kids, you know? So it's really trying to think through that. We have funding for after-school programs. And we're just thinking through what can we do? What would the students want to do if we were putting efforts and money there? Do you have a question on this? Okay. The next one's Fern Ridge Middle School. So again, 257. This is totally optional. Parents can opt their kids out. The kids can opt themselves out. 257, which is the highest we've had in 3 years participating in the survey. This happens during homeroom. The middle school and the high school questions are exactly the same, so you can kind of compare. I can share the slide deck with everybody too, and I think I've shared the data, but I can reshare it. And it's similar, but a little bit different. Students feeling accepted, students feeling like their teachers care about them and want them to succeed, have the power to make a difference, have at least one adult that I can go to for help. And I know that was a major focus for Fern Ridge Middle School. So they were really proud of that 90.3, 9 out of 10 kids feel like they have an adult in the school. Provided with varied enrichment opportunities, 90.7, feeling confident that I can do well in school if I don't give up. My teachers have high expectations, provided with instruction that helps and builds critical thinking skills. I understand how school impacts my future. I think that one's important to me. I want our kids to know why they come to school every day. And then school staff help me to learn and understand opportunities for my future. Same questions for the high school next. I'm not going to reread them all, but if you want to take a second to kind of glance through them. High school had 297 responses, which again, same thing, highest in 3 years. So what I would like to think is that our kids see the value in doing this for us and know that we want to know their input and help use it to make decisions. One of the questions I think I've talked to the board about that I always look to is I care about other students at my school and I want them to succeed. Almost 90% of the high school. So 9 out of every 10 kids wants their classmates and peers to succeed. And so this last area, you guys will hear me talk about a lot of these things here in the coming weeks, months, because of our updated SIA application, high school success, early literacy, early indicator intervention. All of those go into one huge application that I'll present to you. And some of our focus areas are around these things: attendance, PLCs, data, professional learning, 9th grade on track, counselors, attendance. And then if you go to the next one, oh, I didn't. So what does it all mean? All of those things come into play, all of the input data, all of the staff input data, all of the performance data goes into making our integrated application plan. What are we going to do with the money from the state? Again, I'll share the slide deck with you. All of those links on the side kind of give you more information about all of the things that we have going on. And then next steps is our last slide. So just continuing to try to get input from folks. We have Court Worth from the high school and Amy Hand, our family resource liaison, are taking a couple students to Lane ESD to do a student voice activity. The kids will get to look at the student input data that their classmates did, that the middle schoolers did, and then they get to have a conversation around that and share ideas with me. All of our buildings, I'm trying to help work through a K-12 process for a multi-tiered system of support. So we had a team of, how many people went? 10? At least 10 over the last couple of weeks in the evening on a school night, committed to learning more about these processes and what we can do in our buildings to help kids, continuing to provide professional development and a targeted plan, and then working on that application so that we can do it for the next 4 years. And then also just one little thing that I'm working on is the K-12 curriculum page. And I don't know that I've shared that with the board, but it's on the website and we're kind of trying to keep that its focus too. Any questions on any of that? Not a one, Mr. Warren.
Great job.
All right, so we'll do that again, but with all updated data in the spring, I believe in May.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, next we have our superintendent report.
Couple things to touch base on, as usual, start off with the bond. Remember, we have four larger projects that will start this summer. We have a couple little things happening spring break, including a bunch of tree trimming and a new gate at the Elmira Elementary School. Our four main projects, the middle school, we're set, we have a plan. We'll be going out to bid in the coming months, scheduled to start the first day, school's out. Monday, after the teacher's last day on that Friday in June. Vineyard Elementary, same thing, have a plan, all the gym striping, coloring, lettering just got finalized last week. And then the restroom, that mock-up is all done. Same thing, start the first day after school's out. The high school science, they'll start actually one day later. We're giving teachers an extra day after kids are gone to all those spaces need to be totally empty. There's chemicals back from when Mark was a young boy in there, so we gotta find right places to dispose of them, and some stuff we can store out in the Connex. Other stuff that needs to stay inside are gonna go to other classrooms, but essentially they'll start 2 days after kids are gone, and then we're still on track. Not on the plastic table here. 5 weeks from today, we break ground on the high school parking lot, athletic. The parking lot won't actually start until kids are gone, but at the athletic facility breaking ground on Monday, May 31st. Monday, March 31st, the Monday after spring break. The next bond oversight committee is scheduled for next Thursday, March 6th. Any questions on anything bond related? Okay. We continue to bargain with FRIA. We've had 3 sessions so far as a part of our collective bargaining. The next 3 Wednesdays we meet. That's going fine so far. Instructional hours, I wanted to mention now that we're hopefully through any closures or delays. We've essentially closed 2 days and 2 delays. One of the days was a Wednesday, so we've lost 2 full days and a 2-hour delay. We are still, I want to say 14 hours to the good in regards to the time that we're required. Typically, I would recommend, probably wouldn't decide anything yet because we still have maybe another month of sketchy weather, but typically I wouldn't recommend to the board that we add days back in the summer unless we fell below that instructional time. However, for those of you that know, the board has the ability to add back days anytime we fall under 175 days. And we start the year under 175 days. So if we lost 1 day, the board could decide to add it. Typically, it's such a negative impact on families that have plans to have kids come back on that Monday after their last day that we don't do that. So absent us accruing a couple more closure days, it won't be something that I recommend that we add back school days, but again, that's the board's purview. Any questions there?
So, we're at 2.5, did you say?
2 full days and 2 hours.
2 hours, okay. And then on the calendar, there's 5 days.
Well, we identify, that first week after we identify as potential makeup days.
Right.
So we try to put out a warning to parents, hey, if you're going to Disneyland, keep in mind. What I'm just sharing is we typically, we wouldn't add back days unless we fell below that instructional time limit, and then we absolutely would. And typically when we add back days, even if we only fall under a couple hours, we'd probably add back 2 or 3 days. Again, just so they're not coming back like on a Monday for 1 day, which we would never attend. So assuming we're open the rest of the year, no more closures, I definitely won't see a need to add a day or 2. Reminder just that at our next board meeting in March, Kristen will be here at 5:30. And I sent you the homework. As we get a week or so out, I'll remind you of what that is. And then the students talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to mention we're well into planning about outdoor school. I started all the transportation requests or got those to Quanta this week, and they mentioned the training. They had interviews for high school counselors. You know, some models of schools go to outdoor school with their 5th graders where they rent a camp and kind of the counselors come with it. And it used to be let's say 10 years ago, the district fully funded outdoor school. In that time, the state of Oregon has added outdoor school funding, so we get to incur costs and get reimbursed. So outdoor school, for the most part, is paid for. But again, some districts may go to a camp where the counselors are already provided, and you just show up with your kids. I think it's a cool model that we have the students that apply and get to be a counselor, go to several months of training, a night or two a week. And I would just mention to the board members, if you were ever interested in sitting in and listening to what that looks like, usually takes place at the middle school. Start pretty soon. I'm sure you could hang out and watch that process if you wanted. So typically outdoor school, I can't remember the exact dates, but it's the last week of May at Sky Camp, which is up out of Fall Creek, if you know where that's at. That's all I got.
Thank you. Is it now every year at Sky Camp or
What's that?
Isn't outdoor school, didn't we used to?
We had 2 years, like kind of during COVID. One time we went to Lutheran, or other outside of Kansas City. One time we went to, during COVID, when it was just a day camp.
Oh,
Camp
right.
Alani. Another thing reminded me, I wanted to show you, this last week, if you go to the district main page and click down bond information, every 2 months, I'm doing a larger update on bond work. So that's the page. You can see my February 25 update. If you click on that, there's a long document that goes through pretty much every project, our process that we're in for each project, timelines, what's happening. So bond information, left-hand side of the page, and there's links every time this update comes out. I share it on Parent Square, I share it on social media. Next one will be in April. So if you ever get people asking questions about where can I find out what's going on, that would be the best page to send them to.
Did you see it, Lisa?
And that's all I got.
So I just want to make an observation about our model for outdoor school, which I feel like is, I've watched a couple of counselors teach lessons at camp, and first of all, I've been really impressed. And second of all, I feel like the younger kids are looking at the students saying, oh, I can do that when I'm, a junior or senior, and they get really excited about it. So I'm really I'm always glad when I hear about it.
All righty. Thank you, Gary. Any discussion items? We got some first readings, lots of reading. Do we need to check those proposed calendar? Yes, we do. 2025, 2026. Andrew, you normally find mistakes.
Yeah, we'll have a second reading next month, so feel free to.
Let us know.
All right.
Okay. And then after. We do have a bunch of first readings, so we'll be busy.
I can give you kind of a rundown.
Most of them are deletes.
Most of them are deletes. If there's a replace, that's a delete, and then there's a new one to update it. The rest that are just deletes are forms for filing for leave. And we don't use any of the ones that they supply from OSBA. Juana has her own that she sources. So I asked OSBA if we could just get rid of them and they could be gone out of our menu. They said yes.
Do you archive those? Or they just?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, they're somewhere in like policy update records of emails, but.
Yeah, okay. All right, we have a group of second reading that does require board action.
I actually have a question on KLD. Was there an AR to go with that?
Don't look like it. I don't recall which one is KLD.
Oh, we don't have to do I didn't put it on there because you don't have to do a second reading on an AR.
Yeah, ARs are kind of our internal process. ARs are don't need board approval, just kind of in the way we make the policy that you approve and develop. The AR is how we implement that policy.
The exception, there is a list of ones that have to be on a second reading, that's an AR, and in fact, I believe that JHCD R was a delete, but it is there's a list that the OSBA provides that there are certain ones that you do have to do a second reading and have approval.
And then KLD is to replace KL, or KL is replacing KLD.
Yes, they were old and had not been deleted, and when I asked about them, they said they've been
I
gone
think
for a
what
long time,
happened when we
so.
adopt the new ones, we just forgot and didn't delete the old.
Yeah. So they're going now, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? So for these second reading, we need board action to adopt.
I make a motion to adopt the policy proposal updates as presented.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, we have 5 ayes. Personnel. There's some licensed personnel. Licensed just resolutions. Okay. All right. We have a resolution here, or a couple of resolutions, and we probably need to do those individually. Okay. Resolution 24-2504, teacher contract extension. We have a list of teachers. So we have a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 24-25/04.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any question, concern, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have 5 ayes.
That was all our contract teachers. This is now our probationary teachers that are just extended for 1 year to the next year of probation.
Okay, need another motion on 20.
I'll move to accept resolution 24-25/05.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have 5 ayes.
The next one, you may or may not know, but our retired folks that we hire back, I think we currently have 3 in our district. A special education teacher, Miss Moen, Miss Jones, our early literacy, and who else? Mr. Goldberger. They're up there. So when you're on a 1-year contract, for our retired folks or other folks that might be on a 1-year contract, they're always terminated. And then once we get through our budget process in the next few months, we have the ability to offer back to them. So for the most part, those folks, if they want to return, that's the other thing, haven't had the conversation with all of them that do in fact you want to work another year. But they're all aware that they'll be non-renewed at this board meeting. I sent them an email so they don't have a cardiac arrest or something.
I move that we accept resolution number 24-25/06.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have 5 ayes. No, that's what it's about. And we have a retired.
Next one's our probationary admin. So we have 3. We'll move on to either the second or third year of their probation.
Excuse me. So is there anybody for, item 9A, 5?
Yeah, right.
That's what, yeah, that's what's listed here.
I see Billy's out there.
Well.
So these are just our administrators that have been with us for less than 3 years. Recommending all of them are renewed for their next year of probation.
We have a motion on resolution 24-25/07.
Make a motion to approve 24-25-07.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 ayes. Resolutions. All right, resolution 24-25/0808 is admin contract extension.
I move that we accept resolution number 24-25/08.
With these administrators, once you become a contract, essentially contract administrator, essentially we extend them 1 year. So they're through 26-27.
All right. We have a motion.
Second.
Okay. A motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
5 ayes. And resolution 24-25/09 is our admin 3-year.
Yeah, so the first time you get moved to a permanent position, you get a 3-year extension. And then essentially next year, Mr. Joel won't get extended at all. He's got 2, and then the following year, he's kind of always got a rolling 2 after this initial 3-year.
You have a motion on extended?
So I'll move to accept 24-25/09.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 ayes. And we did it?
We did it.
Okay.
This is just
And the
information.
non-licensed, we don't need any.
No, that's just.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, any late items, closing comments? Lisa, you always be telling us what you've done in the community, anything new for us?
Elementary boys basketball, girls basketball, varsity boys basketball, girls basketball. No idea. Well, there's 2 teams on the elementary that I'm watching. And then we had the Hall of Fame. We had the Hall of Fame there. And in varsity boys, there's one student that will be graduating and going on. And then the girls, there's 3.
Sweet.
And then free of bargaining, I've been observing in that.
Sweet. Anything else? All right. We have a list of upcoming events. I'm sure someone have touched on. If not all of these, we can read it. So we will call our regular session. You have one? Okay.
So the classified employee appreciation week, is there anything done?
Now for that. Yeah. Yes, it's on my calendar. I noticed that when I was looking at my weekly planner today, Wednesday, I have that noted. And so I'll get buildings do their own thing. Here at the district office, we'll recognize the classified folks that work here. Tomorrow, let's add that to our agenda tomorrow morning, making sure early in the year, we kind of give building principals all these weeks so they know when it's counselor week and classified. So typically I'll send something out to all the staff. I'll mention on behalf of the school board. So and then exactly what we do in buildings, they'll have lunches or the PTAs do things for the classified staff like the elementary schools, but I'm sure we'll have stuff on the reader board. There'll be a social media, parent square post. each building kind of treats it different, but we'll definitely, you'll start hearing about it on Monday, if not over the weekend, so.
Thank you.
Okay. At this point, we will be going into an executive session, and so, executive session under ORS 192.6602I to review and evaluate the performance of the chief executive officer or any other public officer, employee or staff member, unless the person whose performance is being reviewed and evaluated requests an open area. We are going to be adjourning, and thank you guys for being here. No, you not need a. Okay. You're right.
Thanks, JP, thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Meeting at 8 o'clock on the dot, 2 minutes though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
So now I can run out.
Now you can go.